ton mankos! My name is Sharksa, Shivers. Been a while, hasn't it? Sorry, been working on this piece for a while and having other stuff going on as well. Really happy though with this final poster. There's a link to the finished pic in the description if you want to look at it better, and you'll probably notice that I didn't record literally every bit of the making of this. A lot of that came down to feeling like this was bloated and wanting to experiment with stuff on my own, you know? But yep, so what are we talking about today? Well, you read the title. We're gonna be taking a dive into what Kidnapped is. I've talked about it in other places before, mostly on Twitter, but here I can go into a lot more detail about it and what the series is about as a whole. I'm gonna also talk some on the characters here, but I'm planning on making individual vids on characters, so give me a bit of time and I'll get to it. My next project that I'm gonna try to do is make 2D full turnaround animation ref sheets so I can actually start working on animation and animatics more. I said before with the chime meme that I felt like I would have went faster if I knew what I was doing, and I still feel that way, so new moving refs it is. My idea for the character vids is to record making some of that, or to just make new pics entirely and speed paint them, whatever. Either way. Anyways, you're here to hear about Kidnapped and what Kidnapped is about, so let's go on ahead and talk about it, folks. Kidnapped is an animated series idea that I've had and have wanted to make for over a decade or so now. It's the big thing I want to do, and it has been since I was about 13 or 14. This series just means so much to me, and I'm so excited to share it with you guys. So the characters in this poster are the very main characters, but it's technically not all the main characters, since there are other characters that are needed for the story to function correctly in the long run. Oh yeah, Kidnapped is an overarching series with several different storylines that go on throughout the series. I should probably mention that. Here in the poster, we've got our main derps, the trio. That is actually their team name. Something you're gonna notice a lot with Kidnapped is that it's very, very simple naming schemes. There's reasons for that. Our trio consists of Sharky, Max, and Christy, and I'm gonna assume that you can figure out who is who. I feel like it's pretty obvious. The trio are demon and monster fighters, mostly demons, in training by Orange Hair up there. Yes, that's her name. And we also have one of our main antagonists up there, Mephoria, the shape-shifting queen of the Shadow Demons. Mephoria, I should also state, isn't going to be our only antagonist. There are definitely more, but alas, I cannot reveal the other ones currently, in time. Now, I bet you're wondering, wait, okay, so why is this series called Kidnapped then? Seems like an odd naming choice for this. Well, the reason would be that the series begins with Christy getting kidnapped and sucked into this whole world and thing without any sort of real choice. In the world of Kidnapped, there are 5 sections of beings, and of those 5, 2 are hidden to the broader populations. Our first section would be humans, which I hope I don't have to explain that to you. Christy falls into this group along with the captain and Amber. We have our anthros, which derps like Sharky, Max, Angel, Sharkita, and others would fall into. Our third section would be normal animals, which are the ones kept as pets, used for food or livestock, or are just wild. So the animals that me and you are used to. The world to most here is a mix of humans, anthros, and animals. But this isn't exactly true. Enter our fourth hidden section, which would be mers. Or mermaids, but I use mers to stay gender neutral and to keep things easier, and they are referred to as such. Mers are beings thought to be myths, but are in fact very, very real, having powers of different variety. Mers usually have one power group and power level they are born with and stuck with, and they just have to make the most of it. Orange Hair, for example, is a very powerful fire mer, noted as being one of the strongest. while a mer like Nucleotitan is a toxic gas radiation mer and is not a strong mer like at all, but he does his best. Other mers we'll get to know consist of Aqua, a water mer, Cherry, also a fire mer, Lime, a plant mer. We'll meet Talia, who's a mine mer, and so on. You get it, yeah? So how many mer types are there, I imagine is your next question. Well, currently, because, again, always subject to change, and even with what I'm about to say, since mixed mers exist, it counters this kinda, sorta, but just go with it for now. But currently there are about 10 types. Those types would be water mers, fire mers, plant mers, healing mers, weather mers, gas radiation mers, acid radiation mers, mind mers, magic mers, and rainbow mers. And like I said, with mixed mers, this can get interesting. Mers usually are only born with one power type, but you do have the much more rare cases where a mer can be born with more than one. They still have a certain power level, however, and if they have a lower and weaker power level, well, they still gotta make do with what they have. But if they have a higher power level, they're usually some of the most powerful kind of mers around, usually speaking. Mers can switch between a human and a mer form and try to live their lives carefully, wanting to continue being seen as a myth to others. And by others, I mean landies. Landy being a term used for people who live on land. Now, mers are known to sea folk. They kinda can't hide from them, but there's usually a type of solidarity between mers and sea folk, and thus sea folk usually won't say anything about mers to landies. And while mers want to stay hidden to landies, our last and final group, well, demons and monsters. Demons usually are noted as being much more humanesque with how they communicate and behave. We've got our shadow demons, shapeshifters, dream demons, and for our monsters, we have things such as bounders, shadow maids, and heart snatchers. All very fun to deal with. Monsters especially, since you can't reason with them at all since they're more like animals. Now, since I have the world built up, I can explain the plot a bit better. Quick note, everything here is subject to change to editing, though the bulk of this is gonna remain the same, but please keep in mind if something changes down the line, that's why. This isn't, fully made yet. Please keep that in mind. So, let's begin our story. Enter Crystal Rose Miller, or Christy, since that's the name she goes by and strongly prefers. Christy is a very average 14-year-old human. She lives in the coastside town of Wavendale, Virginia with her mom and her older brother, Josh. Christy is a person who doesn't have very many friends. She doesn't really have a clear sight of her future, and she's very stubborn as a person. All is well in her life, albeit boring, until the fateful day she decides to take a walk and is kidnapped. No traces of where she's gone. Christy awakens in a place known simply as the campsite and comes face to face with the world-renowned Madison Lockhart, a very powerful inventress and scientist. Christy is obviously horrified, confused, beyond sad, and super pissed all at the same time. But Madison decides to add even more confusion along with shattering Christy's worldview by telling her the reason she's there is to learn to fight demons and monsters. Specifically, one particular genocidal shadow demon by the name of Demon Drop. Madison reveals that she isn't human and is in fact a very insanely powerful fire mer named Orange Hair, as we said earlier. And that while she and her sister, Purplefin, previously defeated and banished Demon Drop to an alternative dimension, he will be returning soon, and that Christy is one of the only people standing that stands a chance in beating the tyrant and banishing him a second time to a far more permanent place. Christy is obviously even more mentally distraught by this, not believing any of it, and not wanting any part of Orange Hair's insane ramblings. Orange Hair simply shrugs this off and tells Christy, "You'll understand pretty quick, I'm sure." Orange Hair then proceeds to give Christy an amulet known as the Leaf of Lights, and tells Christy that she's the only one that can wield it, and that's the only thing that can defeat Demon Drop. This is where our story begins, as from this point, Christy lives in the campsite, meeting the other campsiters, learning about where she is, and trying to come to terms with everything as soon as she's brought alongside her new teammates, Sharky and Max. Christy is trio leader. Orange Hair basically put her in charge, seeing Christy as having the skills in mind to take such a role. Christy, as I said, wields the Leaf of Lights. She's the guardian of the amulet, if you will. Christy starts off crappy with the amulet, but gets better as the series progresses, getting more powers and getting more skilled with said powers. The magic inside is from Rainbow Magic Murs, a mixed Mur type that is noted as being one of the rarest Mur types, but also having some of the strongest magic among Murs. Christy's main fighting techniques with said amulet consist of making rays, force fields, and teleporting, to name a few. As for her teammates, let's get into some basic info on them, shall we? Sharky Sharkson and Max Wellbone, or Max, would be them. Together, they make up the trio, which is their team name that they collectively decide on. Sharky is a blue land shark. He's 15, though at the very beginning he's 14, he just ages up within the first few episodes. And Sharky is the sword wielder of the trio. Sharky is known as a very, very kind-hearted and sweet guy, but usually most outsiders are often frightened of him and don't see him that way no matter how hard he tries. And boy does he. He's a very creative person, an artist, a writer, and he can craft quite a few things with enough practice, like sculptures or tools here and there. Sharky's ocean knowledge also really helps the trio out in certain scenarios, having been born in the ocean before becoming landbound at age 3, and having grown up around and having access to the ocean throughout his life. Sharky's also noted as being the trio driver, having his own car and all, courtesy of Orange Hair. He's somebody who's trying to discover himself and trying to find his place to fit in the world, having plenty of problems with landies and also with sea dwellers at times. Despite all this, Sharky maintains a pretty optimistic attitude most of the time. Note that most of the time, Sharky can get very, very emotional when it comes to how he views himself and different things that go on in his life. Sharky can easily break down at points, and this kind of thing can also cause more problems whenever he's doing that at the wrong places and the wrong times. This does in turn make Sharky a lot more empathetic to other people though, which is pretty helpful when he's trying to help his friends. Sharky is always there for his friends, and he's always there to try and help people when he can. Then we have Max, our Shoodle Trio Tech Master, Sharpshooter, Survivalist, and local edgelord. At 14, Max has already been through quite a lot in his young life, having spent his first 7 years as a homeless stray, trying to get by and to survive, up to his next 7, as he's trying to now catch up, adjusting to having a family, and all sorts of things that come with that. Max suffers from depression stemming from that past, along with having quite a few anger issues at times, though he does try to fight against these things most of the time. But also most of the time, Max is also the type of person to slap a smile on his face and make an edgy joke instead of open up about his actual feelings. Unlike Sharky, Max bottles his feelings as much as he can. He doesn't want to bother people with his problems, and since he also has trust issues, that's also another problem. Max can't always keep his feelings bottled, however, and when he can't, those are the points you'll see him at his lowest. And those are also the points where his friends have to help however they can, and they always will since they care about Max and hate seeing him that down. If you ever need something hacked into, a busted phone with important info on it restored, or if a laptop is on the fritz, Max is the man to look to. Max is insanely skilled with tech, and even machinery at times, always loving to break things, see how they work, and put them back together. Along with him just always being plugged into the internet and being a pretty clever guy in general, Max is also pretty damn reckless at times, not thinking before going through his plans and dragging other people into his problems a lot of the time, whether he means to do that or not. Now, like I said earlier, the trio are demon fighters in training under OH's watchful eyes. Orange Hair usually has them doing training lessons, whether that be them going through obstacle courses under time limits, fighting each other and completing challenges in VR-like settings with realistic circumstances and realistic consequences, or having them face against their fears to complete tasks. And when they aren't training, they're putting those skills into real life, going on missions, helping people with their demon or monster issues, traveling to specific places to do tasks for OH, etc. Orange Hair is pretty unpredictable with what she could have planned for the trio to do. She routinely changes things up entirely on them, wanting to keep them alert, and is not afraid to change these things up on a dime if it's not going in the direction she wants. When the trio aren't doing missions, they're usually still together, Christy becoming best friends with Sharky and Max as she gets used to things in the campsite. At points, though, they will get caught up in other campsite shenanigans. Maybe we can see things like Sharky trying to help Angel with charity work, while also trying to deal with his feelings he has for her. We can see Max, Cherry, and Aqua get into some deep trouble as a prank goes awry, and see them trying to fix it before Amber or Sharkita finds out what they did. Or maybe we'll see Christy trying to uncover parts of the campsite's past and the mysteries that the captain keeps hidden from all. So, there's that. But yeah, there's definitely a lot more I can talk about in time, but as basic plot for now goes, that's pretty much the basics. I apologize for this vid taking so long to come out. I meant for it to come out a lot sooner, but the last few months have been genuinely pretty hard for me. Depression and anxiety are just so fun. Very, very fun. Sarcasm. Next video that I do make, I will do my best not to take nearly as long on it, life willing. I hope you all are staying safe out there too with all this COVID crap. Please be safe, please, please, please. Watch out for each other, and yeah, I got some links in the description to more of my arts. I'm pretty active on Twitter, though I usually pretty retweet heavy, and my anxiety just turns me into a snail just hiding away on my shell. But yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you enjoyed the speed paint, and I will catch you guys later. Dziękuję, pan Menkos.